Welcome everyone to the Score Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Justin Boone, the lead fantasy analyst at The Score, and today's episode is presented by Head & Shoulders. Offense for great hair, defense against flakes.
Offense for great hair.
Defense against flakes.
Head.
Shoulders.
I am very excited about today's episode. For the first time this season, I am in first place in Fantasy Pro's most accurate expert competition. Many of you listening maybe even came across me, maybe even found my work thanks to the success that I've had on Fantasy Pros. I've finished in the top 11 each of the 7 years I've been in the contest. There's about 140 experts or so in there. I've been top 5 the last 2 seasons, but I mention it because anyone that knows me well knows how competitive I am and knows that it has just been killing me that I haven't finished first. So hopefully this isn't like a no-hitter situation where you're not supposed to talk about it at all, but I had to share that with you off the top because it's going to have me really fired up here for the final 5 weeks. Hopefully this will be the year when I can finally bring home the gold. But I will say that anyone that tells you in this industry that they are doing it alone, they're lying to you. I consume a ton of content from other analysts, as much as I possibly can, really, every week. We've had people come on the show who've talked about how they look at my work. We all kind of work together. We make each other better. And that's why I'm trying to bring the best of the best on the show to help share their knowledge with you. And today we got a great guest. He's coming back for his second visit. It's Josh Hornsby, or as many of you know him, Josh ADHD. That's his Twitter handle, Josh_ADHD. And you can find all his content at fantasyadhd.com, including his outstanding Scott Fishbowl tool that I thank him for every season because it's helped me in that tournament year after year. Josh, thanks for coming back, man.
Justin, man, it's good to be back. I appreciate you asking me on the show. I'm excited to talk a little football. So let's hop in, man. Let's get after it.
Well, you crushed it last year. We had to have you back, and I'm sure we're going to have you back in 2020 as well. But for this week, we're going to dive into week 12, preview the games. I want to look quickly, though, off the top here at a quick offense versus defense matchup. Josh Allen against the Broncos, because this time of year, we really have to make some tough decisions about our rosters, right? We got to figure out who's going to stay on our roster, who can we rely on the rest of the season. We're going down the stretch run here into the fantasy playoffs. It's kind of like in the NBA, right? When the playoffs come around, they shorten up those benches, 7, 8 players, just the guys they can trust to win them games when it matters most. And Josh Allen is very interesting. And I have him on a couple teams, I will admit. He's shown a very nice floor this season. He's got that one game against the Patriots. He got knocked out of the game, but everybody has a bad game against the Patriots. So we can write that one off. And the schedule for the Bills has been very easy this season. So maybe that's helped him maintain that high floor. And then the last 2 weeks had a couple easy matchups as well, the Dolphins and the Browns. And he finally had those ceiling games in those contests. Now the schedule is going to get a lot harder. And it starts with this Broncos matchup. Then he gets the Cowboys, the Ravens, the Steelers, and the Patriots over the next month. And starting with Denver, their team hasn't gotten a lot of things right this season, obviously, but their pass defense has been pretty good. And I know they're coming off a game where Kirk Cousins was able to bounce back in the second half and he threw 3 touchdowns against them, but that's only the second game this year where they've allowed more than 1 passing touchdown. So overall, with this Broncos matchup, with the other tough matchups that I mentioned coming up, is it time for fantasy owners to maybe throw Allen back to the waiver wire in favor of somebody that has a better schedule? Or has he shown enough this year that we can actually trust him the rest of the way?
I think he's shown enough where you have to keep him on your roster. I think throwing him to waivers is a bit premature because, these are tough matchups. I don't think anybody would say otherwise, but tough matchups are not losing matchups for a quarterback like Allen that's very athletic. I mean, he's averaging 7 rush attempts per game over the last 8 weeks. That's very healthy. It's somewhere in the neighborhood, I think, of 40 yards off of those touches. And a quarterback that's got this floor every week, if he gets in a competitive matchup, a tough matchup against a defense that maybe is better against the pass, well, I think that plays right into Allen's hands. Maybe he goes from averaging 7 to averaging 10 totes a game. And you would like that if you're going to roster him. He's currently leading the team in rushing touchdowns. So, I mean, there's a floor here with Allen that I don't think we should ignore, even if the matchups get tougher. I think, if anything, we may want to double down on his floor and see it increase a little bit with some attrition to his passing. Obviously, I think there's going to be some give and take there. But I think in a lot of cases, you would take improved floor with a little bit of a reduced ceiling if you know you're going to get more on the bottom line every week.
And I think one nice thing we've seen from Allen this year is more of a willingness to throw short passes, more of a willingness to throw the ball away even. He's not making as many insane throws. And in a matchup like this where you have to think that Chris Harris is probably going to cover John Brown, he will check down to Cole Beasley. He will look for Dawson Knox, some of his other receivers there, which is a very positive development for a player that coming out we thought was a wild man, right? Coming out last year, even this year, we've seen him make some throws, cross body, throw some really dumb interceptions, but he's shown that improvement that I do think we can trust him a little more down the stretch here.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. He's come along as a passer much more than I expected him to this year. You know, last year the rap on him was that he couldn't even read the defense pre-snap. And this season it looks like he's progressed some in that regard. Like it, you know, granted, he's not playing the tough defenses yet, but he has played New England. New England kind of, beat him up a little bit. But other than that, I think he's done pretty well as a passer. He's got the weapons around him where even against these tough defenses, they're going to be able to take their shots because of his athleticism and ability to escape a pass rush. So, you know, I think these defenses, while tough, they're going to get some wins against Allen, but Allen's going to get his share of wins. And I think it's just really premature to even think about dropping him right now. Now, on the flip side, would you potentially want to pick up a second quarterback going into a playoff run that has a lot of upside and a soft schedule? That way, if you see Allen really struggling here, you can easily pull the plug and get out of there while you can and insert somebody else. And, maybe that quarterback's Sam Darnold. Maybe that quarterback is, off the top of my head, I'm kind of struggling right now, but I'm thinking Sam Darnold's probably going to be a guy that should be available on your waivers. That would be someone you could plug in, maybe even Derek Carr if he's available.
Yeah, there's a few guys that have really good schedules coming up. Even Nick Foles is someone. I know he didn't look that great last week, but he's got some very easy matchups coming up. He gets Tampa Bay. He gets Oakland. They have better receivers this season. So yeah, I'm with you there. And maybe you do want to grab somebody else to throw on your roster. But even if you get into the fantasy playoffs, unless you're in one of those leagues where the roster's lock headed into the fantasy playoffs, you could probably just grab somebody and stream some of those weeks if Allen's not getting it done.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's a good idea.
That is all for the video version of today's podcast. Big thanks to everybody for tuning in, and good luck in week 12.
Said leave on time, my baby said leave on time.